Hey, everybody, and welcome back again to the Eye Opener Society. It's such a pleasure to have everybody tuning in again and listening. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate the support too, as well, because I know a lot of things have been changing here on the podcast, and you're hearing a lot more of my voice lately, and we do miss Hannah, and we're waiting for her return, and she's gonna have so much to talk about. Believe me, I honestly can't wait till she can start talking again. I think she's going to have so many messages for so many people that really need that message as well. So while we're waiting for her return, yeah, you're going to hear a little bit more of my voice. I'm going to do some more solo podcasts, but I'm going to keep them really short, and I'm going to stick them in the middle of the week. And then I'm going to continue doing my Monday podcast as normal. And hopefully I get some guest co-hosts in. And speaking of guest co-hosts, I have one today. And everyone knows her and everybody loves her because I could tell because everybody's been listening and downloading her episodes. Elaine from Arcane Oracle podcast. Uh, I've been so excited to have her doing her own podcast. And again, she just agreed to do it, and she really blew me away with how well her episodes have been coming out. So at the first of the month, you tune in and you'll get horoscope readings, you'll get tarot readings based on your birth, on the birth charts, and it is such great guiding information. And if you haven't tuned in yet, you got to go back and listen to some of her podcasts from when she started and listen in at the first of the month. And we're also going to talk that you can also get your own personalized reading if you visit her website. So I want to welcome her back onto the show. Elaine, thank you so much for joining us here on the Eye Opener Society. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Gary. Thank you so much for having me again. And shout out to Hannah. Our hearts are with you. We miss you. But thank you so much for having me, Gary. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Again, I can't thank people enough because they really have been listening. They've been listening to you a lot, I noticed. So, really quick, before we start talking a little bit about your podcast, outside the podcast, like I said, people can reach you for, their own personalized readings and for other services. Tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my tarot and astrology reading business during the shutdowns in May of 2020. And ever since then, I have had the distinct honor of helping thousands of people through my readings. And I offer tarot readings by time increments. So rather than a lot of other readers, they offer by spread or by card number. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I prefer to keep it a bit more straightforward. And, you can buy a 20-minute reading, you can buy an hour-long reading or anything you want. And I also do horoscope readings. So everybody, most people, they know their sun sign. They know if they're a Taurus or a Leo and so forth. But you also have a birth chart that is based on the specific date and time of birth for yourself. And everyone's birth chart, more or less, is unique. So I do those kind of readings as well as relationship compatibility readings in combination with the tarot readings. I've been doing tarot readings since forever, like more than 20 years now. And I've been doing astrology for more than a decade. So it's what I love. And I get to help people, which is something else that I love. And you can find the full menu and listing of readings at elainesarcanetarot.com. I'm sure the link for that will be somewhere linked for you guys if you're listening and you're interested in getting your own personalized reading. You can also find me on Facebook at Arcane Oracle. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Elaine is correct. I've used her before, and I can attest to the amazing readings. It's just comes so natural, and she makes you feel comfortable too. It's not, these here. I almost feel like, even though I know you, but I think people will feel much more comfortable around you just the way you do your readings. It's different from other readings that I've had where, it becomes so mystical, in the dark room and everybody wants to be so witchy, which is all good and fine.
Mhm.
Everybody has their way of doing a tarot, but the way you do it is just so relaxing. And it's kind of like, talking and being with just an old friend or somebody, and the readings are just so accurate. They really, really do tune into, me. At least they did for me, and I hope they work out for others too. And I know they have because the whole background people here at Eye Opener Society also use your services, so that's great. But now I came to you and I asked you to do a podcast, for the show if you
Mhm.
wanted to do it because it was a great way of promoting. And I always love it because I did the same thing with Anne Lund and Sunset Child. I just kind of threw it out there. Hey, go ahead and give me what you have. I don't know how you threw it together so well, like you've been doing it for years. How do you feel about your podcast?
Well, I'm so thrilled and honored that you offered to host me in that sense. That was an amazing offer, and I'm so grateful to you and to Third Eye for that opportunity. I guess in a sense, I have been doing it forever because it's always been a particular personal passion of mine. So, um, looking at astrological forecasts and working with tarot, all of that. So, it's just a matter of writing things down really and organizing them into a more digestible format, putting a little bit more explanation behind things so that, my notes kind of made sense because the notes were going to be there anyway, more or
Right.
less, unless I got the flu and I was really down. But
Right. And even with your podcast, it's more than that. I mean, your readings are just not just made up stuff. I mean, you are really pulling tarot cards and you are doing horoscopes based on whatever it is all the astrology and all that you put into it. So yeah, what you're giving on the podcast, you probably should charge for it. I mean, but it's true. You really do. You put your effort into it and it's not done sloppily or anything like that. You are doing actual predictions on there. Is that correct?
yes, yes, I do my best to offer authentic and as accurate as possible predictions. That is the whole goal. And thank you so much for the compliments there. Really, you're making me blush. Um, Such an honor. But yeah, that is the long and short of it. Is have always enjoyed following transits, astrological transits. That is, and studying tarot. Gosh, it just I've been following that rabbit hole for more than 20 years, and there's still more. There's always still more. I just found this wonderful book here that's enchanted me for weeks, Tarot Deciphered.
Hmm.
Susan Chang, wonderful tarot writer. So I'm a librarian at heart as well as an oracle. So
There you go. And that's good. And that's what I think people should understand. It's like, again, it's anybody can really pick up the tarot
yeah.
and have your own way of deciphering it. I did it myself. But when you have much more knowledge and the more knowledge you get, the better it becomes. And you link a lot of that with astrology and numerology and birth signs and birth charts. So it's not just a tarot reading, it's a very, very deep reading. And like I said, even with your podcast, they're just general readings, but they are very, very in depth. And I look forward to the podcast because I'm like, okay, what does this month have in the store for me? And that's what I look forward to. And I think everybody else should do the same thing. What I wanted to bring up to you, being that you are doing tarot reading and all that this year, I know I mentioned it to you once before locally to me in one of our local towns. Uh, there was a little metaphysical shop and they were doing tarot card readings too as well. And just out of the blue one day, a chief of police of the town came knocking on the door in there, walked in and said, "Hey, do you know what you're doing is illegal?" Based upon some, you know, archaic laws from way back in the 1700s, probably, that said that you cannot do tarot readings because it's, some sort, how what did it? I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought for the wording, but they were basically saying a tarot card reading because any type of metaphysical or any type of what's the word? Looking into the future here.
Yeah,
psychic ability,
forecasting,
forecasting.
prediction.
They claim it's illegal. You can't do forecasting. It has to be entertainment only.
Right.
And it kind of bothered me because, for one, that's not the job of the chief of police to just randomly walk into any business and tell them how to do their business. And it kind of bothered me too. I said, wow, I don't mind doing tarot reading myself. And if I decide to say, hey, I wanted to charge somebody for, what should be the big deal over that? Well, this here shop, um, didn't, take it laying down. She stood up to it, and I don't know what's going on. I haven't heard any further yet, but she decided, hey, we're suing, but instead of suing for money, what we're going to do is we're just going to sue to get this law removed from the books. And I said, bravo, and I hope that works. In this day and age, right now, this anti-witch, this anti, forecasting, this anti, it affects us, us in a spiritual community, us in, a metaphysical community. Have you ever experienced anything, I mean, I know laws change from state to state, but where you are, do they require you to, the entertainment purposes only on yours?
You know, personally, I've never actually run into any such trouble. Part of that might be that rather like some supernatural entity, I only tend to go where I'm invited in the first place. So trouble doesn't tend to be there for me, whenever you go to, summer festivals and things like that where you've paid vendor fees and whatnot, and it's understood what you're doing and the atmosphere that you're going to be in. I've never really been messed with there. Now, I have read about that story that you're referring to in Pennsylvania. And I agree with you. That was really fishy. I don't like any of the details of that story because, as far as I could tell, and I remember, doing a little bit of Google investigating into that story at the time. I don't remember all of the specific details that I came up with out of it, but it didn't seem like there was any particular stink around that practitioner or her business, that
Mhm.
she was running a typical metaphysical, spiritual, botanica type shop, and there was no scandal around it. So I don't see what could have motivated them, the law enforcement that is, to want to make that intimidating visit to a
Mhm.
woman who wasn't really doing anything to impose upon her community. But I do know, good, bad, and all things. That's one deeply held belief of mine. There's good and bad in all things. Here in Indiana, we have some similar zombie laws. Um, Again, I don't know that I could properly quote them off the top of my head, but I do know that in Vigo County, I believe there was a case a few years back. It was very sad. There was a psychic shop that got in a good deal of trouble because they were manipulating this grieving woman into believing that her deceased loved one, I forget the specifics of it, but basically this psychic was taking this poor woman for all she was worth, tens of thousands of dollars for, fancy crystals that were supposed to ward off terminal cancer and threatening her health and everything. And it really was a terrible situation. And I think that they did kind of revive one of those old zombie laws about fortune telling and forecasting to prosecute a person who was essentially committing spiritual fraud, which is despicable. It's just that I rather agree with the shop owner in Pennsylvania. That law should at least be amended to, focus more on the fraud aspect of
Right.
whenever these practitioners or charlatans, fake psychics are using those kind of tactics to obviously scam people with, $2,000 moldavite crystals that ward off demons or whatever silliness. Like maybe that should be uh, a law or a protection, a regulation that's in place. But yeah, I mean, naturally, I have a big problem with anything that restricts spiritual practice under the guise of law. That's, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, especially for us, because it turns out like you could practice any religion openly and there's never a problem with it. You could go to a church and nobody questions
Right.
anything. But when it comes to a metaphysical, spiritual sense, we're in the same boat as far as religion. It's just the way we see things. It's all. But laws are on the books too for reasons like that. But again, it all falls under a more general sense of, like you said, of fraud or scams or whatever, because the same people walk around trying to, sell home improvement to the elderly and take them for every single, dime. That doesn't mean home improvement now should be made illegal. So that's what I see. And like I said, there's a way. If there was an actual complaint, I understand, but for somebody to waste taxpayers' dollars by going into, a shop on their own accord and just using an intimidation factor on that. That's where I have the problem. That's why,
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't seem right for people that are just making a simple living and the people that are their customers are actually coming to them for that service. So there should be no issues with it in my book. I don't know. I'm not an attorney, but hopefully the law gets changed to stop the intimidation at the very least. Because
Right.
this is where I really have the problem.
Oh yeah, yeah. In that particular situation, it is despicable. I think what law enforcement did, because I mean, she was in her own business, and she wasn't unlike that situation that I cited out of Indiana several years ago.
Mhm,
There, I couldn't find any similar scandal or stink where she was, obviously ripping off vulnerable people.
mhm,
Um, and I could understand that. I can also understand that. I think here in Indiana, if I were to take my tent to some, public park or some downtown area and just pop up my tent and offer tarot readings, there would probably be some sort of an issue with that, but
mhm.
it wouldn't.
Right.
It
Yeah.
well,
Where's your tax dollar?
right,
Where's our
right,
taxes? Where's our cut of this? Um,
exactly. I'm sure there's some coffee shop that would be happy to let me pay
mm,
them or something like that if that was something I was looking to do. But
right. Yeah. And that would work. That'd be nice. I gotta come visit you actually. Now you just reminded me. I gotta do it one day.
oh, I
Um,
would love that. Or I'll come visit you one of these days.
yeah. Yeah. Well, once things change and settle down, who knows?
Uh-huh.
While we're on that topic too now of, whether it just be, and I'm referring strictly to you as far as your senses, your abilities, and all that. Does, when it comes to your readings, tarot reading or even horoscopes, is there any sort of psychic sense with that? Or is this just what you feel is just what's coming to you? Or do you feel like you can actually see things or events?
Well, really you just described it right there, is that it is my primary abilities lie with clairsentience, which is psychic knowing, and clairaudience, which is psychic hearing. Sounds like hearing voices, but not in like the delusional hallucinatory sense.
Right.
I know that they are not in the room with me, as we say. But yes, I hear spirit chatter. I channel that. And, occasionally, whenever the connection is really, really good, I'll see images. However, the clairvoyant factor isn't necessarily the strongest. So it's not like I have these visions, very specific things, but I have been known to identify that that thing that was missing, I have a really strong sense that it's in that area. And then or something of that nature. That's clairsentience, automatic or psychic knowing.
Mhm. And I always enjoy asking that question because I'm always fascinated by people's gifts. It's, everybody has them. A lot of people either just don't know that they exist or some people are scared of them or whatever the case may be. And I'm always trying to develop mine, and
Mhm.
it's a never ending, search. It's something that we constantly work on. Um, how long ago, like when did you first realize that you had these gifts and what did you do? Like, did it scare you or did you jump right into it and start, saying, oh, this is exciting? What happened?
Uh, I mean, started honestly so young that it's all really, really fuzzy. I think my first memories of things, having experiences and really believing those experiences and disbelieving adults that were telling me that those experiences didn't happen. 4 or 5 years old, before kindergarten. Um, Friends that I saw on a regular basis that I would talk about and then be reminded that they either weren't there or that they were deceased and that they couldn't have been there earlier that day or whatever. Um, and I remember getting kind of upset about it because no, 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 no. Mary came in while I was taking a bath and we talked and no, Mary died. You know that Mary died, or so on. And I remember really struggling with that at 4 years old. That well, okay, but what does that mean? Because she still sees me, she still talks to me, or they still see me, they still talk to me. Um, Seeing spirits. I remember living in a house once and trying to climb the stairs, and I was a little too small to be climbing the stairs, and my mom was busy. She wasn't watching. And I remember encountering these little beings, kind of like little goblins, but they were nice. But they would chase me back from the stairs.
Interesting.
I'd get frustrated with them. And then I told my mother that, and she's, what on earth are you talking about? And I just such a clear memory of that. But yeah, and of course the fascination with tarot that started about 4 years old. Finding my mother's tarot deck, and I was just obsessive about it. I'd spread them out on the floor in her bedroom, and I knew those cards meant something really big, and I, gaze at them and try to figure them out.
Hmm.
But yeah, so and then it just went from there, and some things got weaker and some things got stronger as I got older. But
Mhm. That's great. Like I say, love to push people to focus on whatever it may be. If you're getting these here strange senses, voices, visions, or anything, focus on them. I always said, find out what they are. They are your gift. I struggle like with my wife. She's very powerful, but I think for her, it's overwhelming and it's so much that she does not understand. And it could take a lifetime before you can actually feel comfortable,
uh-huh.
getting involved or doing something about it. I know she's a healer. And it's just a pusher. Say you should use that for good, try and help. But a lot of times, as for some people like my wife, it's too draining for her. It's way too much mentally, it's way too much physically for her because it actually does. She's exhausted after any kind of a healing. So I think people just need to focus on that. And that's why I am always interested in what people have to offer because us as human beings, there's a lot more to us than just the flesh and bone that we are. There's some deep spiritual connection and we're all connected in some way. And we need to understand what we have. And then once we figure it out, we could use that for good rather than all of the nonsense that goes on in the world every single day.
Yes, too true. Very true. Very true. Very wise. There is so much more going on than what we perceive with our waking minds on a day to day basis. Of that, I have absolutely no doubt.
Mhm. And, you know, as time goes on, I've been noticing, even in the regular medical field, the modern medical field, they're starting to pick up on more of the holistic approach. It's starting to become mainstream slightly. It's not where we like it to be, but even in the mental health community too, they're using meditation as a way of curing or healing, and I find that great. I really do. And I'm just hoping that we can go back to the earlier ways of medicine, the safer ones, not the bleeding and, bloodletting and all that. There are a few mistakes I think we made, but I think the holistic approach with more holistic medicines, holistic healing, I think we could do so much better because people don't realize how we can actually heal ourselves. Once we put our minds to it, we have a lot of control over our bodies and what goes on with it from diseases and all. It's a mind over matter thing. And I've studied a lot of that by doing a lot of research. And I stopped going to my doctor because I just felt it's just money. That's all. Here, take this drug, take that drug, and it does nothing for you but keep you sick. That's all.
Uh-huh.
So I
Yeah.
found by, I just cut it all out. I don't take advice from me. I'm not a medical doctor, but you know, if you practice what's going on in your mind and then you think healing, and if you focus in and telling yourself, I'm going to be well, I'm going to get better, I'm going to recover, this is going to leave me, that positivity starts to heal you. And there has been proof of that. There has been some studies on that. It's the placebo effect.
Mhm.
When people are given the sugar pills and are told that this pill is going to cure you, puts that thought right there in your mind. And you start taking it, and it's nothing but sugar, and you actually get, the results that you want from that. So
Uh-huh.
that's the biggest proof that we have that our minds actually work stronger than, medicines do.
Oh yeah, yeah. That honoring that sacred trinity between the physical body, the mind, and the soul. I think that is a crucial turning point there. And I absolutely agree with you. By no means do I think we should return to like the four humors and bloodletting and leeching and it's a
Right.
fun thing to study historically as far as like odd curiosities, but no, I think that we have really dismissed for far too long that trinity between our physical health, our mental health, and our spiritual health. So I'm really excited as well about connecting those dots and honoring those connections more deeply.
Mhm. I really, really appreciate you coming on to the Eye Opener Society. I really love the fact that you don't really leave because every month you have your own podcast. And I'm going to push it again for our audience. Don't forget to check out Elaine's Arcane Oracle podcast. And it's right here on the Eye Opener Society. All you got to do is look for her logo and look for her podcast and definitely give a listen. And if you wait for the first of every month, and you could sit back and figure out just what this month has in store for you based upon your horoscopes, based upon the tarot. And if you really do enjoy it, don't forget to go to Elaine's ArcaneOracle.com if you want to book a session with Elaine, a very affordable session at that too. Believe me, this day and age, affordability means a lot, and it's very fairly priced. And just the fact that you can buy blocks of time and sit there and ask whatever and as many questions as you get in that block of time. So don't forget to check that out. Elaine's ArcaneOracle.com. Don't forget, visit her. Visit her Facebook page too as well. Elaine's Arcane Oracle, is it?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
Elaine's
It's
Arcane Oracle.
Arcane Oracle on Facebook.
Okay.
So yeah, if you follow Third Eye, you'll surely see me there. So just follow the link for Arcane Oracle there.
Okay. And we thank you with all of our hearts. I thank you on a personal level too. All right. All the time. I appreciate every single thing you do. And I'm sure the audience does too, as well, because I know there's been a lot of listeners, and I hope that Elaine's helping you out and gives you some bit of guidance. And we appreciate her being on this episode. Check her out again at the first of every month, and we will see you soon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Gary. And thank you, Third Eye. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a great rest of your week. Bye bye.